Hello, my Stoic pals. I would like you to consider anything that someone leaves your life. No farewell, no justification. The type of stillness that reverberates, leaving you feeling empty. Doesn't it hurt? When they are not present, the questions that remain unanswered, but then abruptly, suddenly they return, and they return as if nothing had occurred. And you're left wondering while you stand there. Why, after all that time, do they return? This query in silence is about more than simply them. It's about knowing your value and how you handle the intricate dance of connections. It's important to recognize the more profound reality that lies beneath there, since their return isn't merely a mirror of them, it's a mirror of how much they've learned about. Even though they can't always, they lost. Express it, which is where when Stoic knowledge is applied, we've all feel what it's like to have someone leave. Silently. And it's difficult to ignore the feelings like though you've been forgotten or discarded, assumed. But I would like you to realize something today. When they return is not about requiring their return to prove your value. It's about you are becoming aware of your own abilities. Digital, and you may perceive self-respect when you are emotionally stable, when you are aware of your value. You are less impacted by the noise of other people's activities, whether they go or return. You remain steadfast in your personal value, which is what Stoicism is all about. Cannot dictate what other people do, but we have power over how we respond to them. About embracing grace's circumstances, not in a state of despair. And this is the strong reality I want you to keep in mind. They sense the weight of your absence, even though they can't right away recognize your presence and energy. Once they see how steady you are, this is the key you don't have, but it's gone. Require their return to validate your value. That idea of self has already been developed by you. So as we investigate the enigma behind their comeback today, hold on to this central, please. Truth, your value is independent of the presence of someone rather than their absence, and most definitely not when they get back, because let's go through this together. Affirm these facts in our hearts. Number 1, they understand that they recognize your worth while you're not there, value in the event that you are unable to. When someone departs, consider this. Your life people frequently fail to recognize the completeness of their possessions till the harsh reality is that it's no longer there, but it's also a potent one that lacks this peculiar method of influencing others. Consider the things they took for granted. They fail to recognize your worth while you're there, but when you go, they're compelled to acknowledge it. Epicus the Stoic. According to a philosopher, that's not what occurs to you, but the way you respond to it. When they depart, you could feel as though even when everything is upside down for you. However, the most important thing here is how you react to the circumstance as you see fit. Quietness when you don't pursue them, you're making a direct statement without. When you say a word, your absence compels them to take responsibility for their own decisions. And more significantly, it helps them understand the extent to which they took you for granted. When you're not there, you communicate. Your worth is not something you have to beg for. It's about validation or attention, retaining your sense of self-worth irrespective of whether they decide to. Whether you realize it or not, you withdraw out of respect rather than resentment. You make a significant impact on yourself. You claim that I won't receive any treatment. As a last resort, I refuse to accept being a backup option, and this is the something they might not recognize instantly, but they will gradually sense it. They'll begin to realize that something is lacking in terms of stability. Supplied the strength you brought, the how you supported them during your absence turns into a reflection of their own behavior, and they observe in that mirror the value that they failed to see. This is a moment I want you to take action so that you can stand tall. Take a moment to acknowledge my value. Drop that affirmation beyond measure in "they sense the emptiness." The comments if you find it meaningful. Understand that your worth isn't determined by neither their existence nor the fact that their absence is consistent, constant, and unwavering. You are deserving not because you believe it, because they say so, in your spirit, and when you maintain, your others are compelled to see that truth. Number, whether they like it or not. 2. They sense the absence of you. When someone passes away, people frequently believe that things will go on as it was, but your presence is what matters most. Made a distinct impression, and they might only understand that after you're gone, it's not simply a person's absence. It's the lack of the vitality you provided, the stability, assistance, and the manner in which you caused people to believe that your absence compels them to face something they might not, having completely understood before the emptiness. You abandoned. A great Stoic named Marcus Aurelius once stated, "The soul is infused with the hue of what he intended to convey, was that your presence influenced their surroundings in a manner that they might not have comprehended at the manner in which you helped them listen and supported them. Those were things they assumed were normal, but when you are no longer present, those tiny moments they weren't even aware of prior to becoming blatantly apparent, that they feel the void, and that void is more than simply missing your bodily. It's about missing the energy, presence, the harmony of the comfort that came with the knowledge that you were present. Serenity, your fortitude, and your inner strength established a base upon which they could depend on whether or not they acknowledged it. When you go away, it appears as if the world changes a tiny bit. Out of line with them, they start to discover how their lives were with you in it, along with the striking contrast, is sufficient to cause them to reflect on their own decisions. Though when you are not present, it becomes a strong implicit message that you are no longer a regular part of their lives, and that just the fact begins to make them aware of how much they miss the things you gave them. But this goes beyond simply feeling missing. They need to understand that you were a source of strength, peace, and their life stability. Confirm this with, "My silence is more powerful than words." If you concur, please leave a comment in the remarks. You don't have to ask for someone who will recognize your worth when you take yourself out of the equation. Experience the emptiness in ways that words could possibly. It has its own vocabulary for expressing your absence. They cannot ignore you in a language, don't they? Must pursue them because your absence is sufficient to cause them to pause and think in order to acknowledge the extent of their loss, and that understanding, that's what will lead them back to you. But keep in mind that you were gone is about demonstrating, not about being weak. They are your strength. No one is necessary. You are whole on your own to complete you. Personal number 3, interest in your growth. When you separate yourself from it, establishes an environment where curiosity may. People begin to question what blossoms. How are things going for them without me? They are drawn back by this curiosity, and at least it's not about them missing you. In the manner that they might have originally believed, it was about them understanding that, without them, you're developing. And that can have extraordinary power because it is human. Nature to ponder something or someone who appears to be doing well without you know precisely what occurs when you stand back and concentrate on your Maya. Angelo once remained silent about progress. Pay attention to your development. Will function unless you take action. Implying that if you quit waiting looking for another person to confirm you're valuable, you forge your own route. You don't need their focus in order to continue moving. Moving forward, you concentrate on creating your life, developing yourself and reaching your full potential. This is a version of you. Change doesn't need an audience. It necessitates commitment to your personal development, and that's the most. Something appealing about you as you mature. The energy starts to manifest in your life. You've made an investment in yourself. More sedentary while waiting for something or someone to alter, but you are continuously changing and growing. You're expanding one's horizons and acquiring new abilities. Individuals who used to take you for granted begin to understand that the individual they, the person they left behind, is now unable to readily swapped out. People start to wonder about what you've accomplished and who you are now, and whether or not they remain a part of that future. You are creating this curiosity, aren't you, about demonstrating to them anything. It's about demonstrating to them that your existence is not focused on their existence or absence. You manage to maintain proceeding with them or without them, and that insight sets off a potent change in their viewpoint. They perceive that you're not. You make them feel insecure, simply waiting around. You're doing well, and that is what makes them retreat into your world. Confirm this with me on a regular basis, expanding, which is my strength. If you have faith in your own development, and record it in the remarks made by visitors upon their return due. They want to know what you've turned into. They don't need you, yet it's regarding their want to observe how you thrived without them, which is a strong position that you've created a life without the need for others to confirm that you're doing well. Independently, terms number 4, you cause their inside feelings of insecurity when someone leaves frequently due to their lack of readiness. To acknowledge their shortcomings, their departure might have been related to their personal inner conflicts that aren't just about you. However, as time goes on, and people see your resilience, serenity, and strength, something changes, and they start to face the aspects of who they have been. Staying away from the sections that are activated by Seneca correctly stated, your growth, if you truly wish to get away from the things that harass you when you don't need it. Be somewhere else, but to be a distinct individual, and that's precisely what occurs when you transcend the circumstance. You demonstrate to them that progress calls for both personal change, and because occasionally their fears are the exact things that prevent them from becoming who they genuinely wish to be. You're not in charge of their fears, nor should you experience the must repair them, but your power and emotional clarity helps them confront their personal worries, doubts about themselves, and their own unresolved problems. They start to understand that they have been avoiding the same characteristics. They find your sense of humor admirable. They are challenged by your strength, self-worth. Your capacity to remain steadfast in the face of hardship forces people to look at what they're missing and come back, not because they addressed these issues in full problems, but your strength reveals the regions that, in a sense, require improvement. Your development turns into a mirror that represents what they haven't yet confronted themselves, and that is an unpleasant but essential experience. Avoiding self-reflection is simple when there are people all around you who don't contest you, but when someone steps forward above, when they don't seek approval and keep growing, it compels the others around them to examine and validate themselves. I am not accountable for this with me or anybody else's. You're not here to be an insecure person, stepping stone for the development of another, or to assume their emotional burdens. Your path is your own, and even though you might, it's your trip. Encourage others to consider their own life. You're not the reason behind their return is a sign of their discomfort, of their need to develop, not yours. When someone comes back, fix them because you've made them feel insecure. Keep in mind that this is an indication of their inner struggle rather than exhibit weakness. That personal development is necessary integrity with oneself, and occasionally that being honest can hurt. But in that pain, there is a chance for them to shift, And within that shift, there's an opportunity for them to go back, not only to, but to the greatest iteration of themselves as number 5, and they miss you. Stability in a chaotic environment and stability in the face of uncertainty becomes an uncommon and priceless resource. When someone departs from your life, they might not completely savor the serene, grounded energy you supplied it until it vanished. Your capacity for emotional steadiness and maintain your fortitude during difficult times was anything they assumed was normal, but when you're not there, stability is really, we learn a Stoic philosophy from the mist epic, informs us that the more challenging, the more glory you receive for conquering it. The capacity to face hardship with grace and their strength served as their anchor. If they were aware of it at the time, or they felt secure when they weren't around you, understood that regardless of what was happening you were someone who could change their life, maintain it. But when that assistance is unavailable after your tranquility is withdrawn, feeling the burden of the instability that they previously disregarded, when it's not only about missing them when they come back. Your anchor is you. As an individual, it's about missing the you provided peace to their world, the steadiness that provided them with comfort, even though they didn't always say it. Your capacity for emotional fortitude served as a base on which they may rest, and after the removal of that foundation, they are left without that to deal with the upheaval. You were the life's steady anchor. That might have been unpredictably. You are no longer available to supply that stability that they must deal with. The upheaval that results from living without it, your absence is more noticeable. More than your presence could ever compel, want them to understand that your steadiness wasn't something to ignore, however something to treasure among them times when they come back looking for your influencing grounding. It's crucial to keep in mind that you are your own anchor. Give oneself a sense of security, and it's a strength that no one can take away. Your capacity to stay calm, collected, and you are the only one who is focused. Could long for the stability you provided, things, but it's critical to acknowledge that no one else is required to. You confirm to me that I am my own ground, anchor. I give myself security by doing this, serves as a reminder that you do not require someone else to give you a sense of stability or certain that you've grown your own strength, which is a quality that won't be taken away from you if they come back. Inform them of your composure, and resilience is not something that can be purchased, gained via personal development. You are already complete, with or without a partner presence of another person, and that is your greatest power. Number 6 is looking for closure. They look for resolution. Never experienced when someone leaves, it's normal to feel unfinished, as if one chapter remains unwritten. Questions that remain unresolved you might not have found closure, but Marcus, that doesn't mean you need it. According to Aurelius, you have control over your keep in mind that external events are aware of this, and you'll discover that the lack of getting closure from them doesn't require leaving. A house that is truly complete in your heart by deciding not to seek solutions. You're using your power to manage your closure for personal peace of mind is something many people look, but it's frequently a mirage. People return in search of clarification. Why did things turn out the way they did? You separated yourself, or maybe even looking for a reason to explain their own actions. But the truth is that you are at peace, is independent of their capacity to describe or put things right. You've already discovered your closure, you've completed the circumstance, acknowledged it for what it is, and went ahead when they frequently returned, because they haven't discovered the tranquility they sought, and now they desire to tie the knot with you, closing the gaps in their own thoughts to explain the reason behind your silence. Them, however, as they look for closure, you're concentrating on something greater, emotional freedom, that you discovered that genuine closure does not from their responses, but from yours inside, decide on the most effective strategy. To handle their response is to maintain your strength in your own. They could desire emotional independence, open old wounds again, or provide an explanation. Things that don't require further explanation. But your tranquility isn't negotiable since you've given up, and it is not your responsibility to act as their sentimental. The resolution you've been waiting for. You've already moved on. Want them to give you what they couldn't previously confirm with me, that I am finished on my own. By saying this, you're reminding. Tell yourself that there is no such thing as closure. It's a process that anyone else can provide. That takes place within you, and you don't need their statements to support your trip. The closure you've already discovered is more robust, greater than any justification they might provide in, "It's not about you in the end when they return." It concerns their unresolved emotions. Their unresolved problems are unnecessary. To open the door you already have again discovered serenity inside yourself, which is where your actual strength lies. The seventh deception is that they see you prospering. There's something there without them. Extremely potent event that occurs when someone leaves, you keep on prosper initially. They could have thought, without them, your life would fall apart. They might have anticipated your disintegration, to struggle without them, but rather, you've become stronger and more self-sufficient, and more you've thrived. Strong Maya Angelou once remarked that you might experience numerous setbacks, but you must not lose, and you, my friends, haven't been defeated. Rather, your success has thrived. Your development and capacity for success lacking them is among the most strong arguments for why they might come back, once you are independent of their presence for your joy, when you demonstrate your ability to live, grow, and achieve. It causes something to happen on your own terms. They can see your strength in them, created without them. They observe the individual you've developed, and it makes them inquire as to why they ever had doubts about you. What they don't understand is that your development is not a consequence of their absence, but rather an outcome of your personal efforts. Resolved to change in spite of their part in your life, you have established a life that isn't determined by what they do or permission, this type of internal strength that draws people in, but it moreover acts as a clear reminder to those who abandoned what they're lacking. They do so when they get back, not because they wish to interfere with your life or look for approval from you. Yet since they're attracted to the current version of you, far more than they could have ever dreamed. In their thoughts, they envision you flourishing. They would wonder if I could have contributed to this achievement. But when they return, you've already located. Your strength and independence are confirmed by, "I'm doing well as an independent dependent." Of other people's existence while you're alive, your declaration that you are in charge of your success, you've demonstrated your value, is unrelated to the existence of anyone, and this is the strongest statement you can. When they witness your success, they is constantly reminded of the individual. You are a self-sufficient individual. To finish them, and my friends, are precisely why your absence is so noticeable, and the reason behind their comeback is more about them. Then you are already the focus, living your best life, strong and independent and prospering without their confirmation, and that alone is the greatest assertion you can make. So I would like to know what you plan to do with their. Will you allow their presence to tremble when you return? Your identity, or will you remain steadfast in your new identity? In actuality, their comeback has little to do with demonstrating your value to them. Is about recognizing your value has always been present, whether or not they witnessed it. The things that other people do not define you, because you're most definitely not characterized by their return, which you already know how to flourish in order to develop and live independently. Terms. The query now is, will you permit their return to further your adventure, or will it serve as a reminder to you of the progress you've made without them? Keep in mind that you don't require anyone to verify your value. You are whole, complete and strong as you are. Your presence and absence said volumes, is evidence of your resilience. Prospering, keep expanding and keep going live with the fortitude that has always been within of you. Drop your confirmation in the remarks that I am flourishing separate from someone else's presence. Let's continue to develop this community of resilience and strength and self-worth. By sharing, commenting and subscribe, you have authority over your continue writing the tale.